Could one of the most powerful voices in music history actually be the victim of a calculated industry exile? Or was her decade-long disappearance a necessary retreat before the most daring comeback ever recorded? Tonight, we are pulling back the curtain on a story that defines the brutal volatility of fame. For over 10 years, the name Jessica Sanchez felt like a whisper of what could have been, a talent so immense it once forced American Idol to rewrite its own rulebook just to keep her on the air. But as the lights dimmed and the contracts expired, the girl who was heralded as the next Whitney Houston seemed to vanish into the shadows of obscurity. Many assumed she had simply given up, but investigative looks into her journey reveal a much more complex narrative of legal hurdles, personal transformation, and a secret life away from the paparazzi. In 2026, the world is finally witnessing the aftermath of her return, a resurgence that didn't just reclaim her status but shattered every glass ceiling in reality television history. This isn't just a "where are they now" update. This is an exposé on the resilience of a woman who refused to let the industry's silence define her legacy. As we look at the footage and the recent headlines, it becomes clear that the Jessica Sanchez we thought we knew was only the beginning of a much deeper, more controversial saga. Long before she was an idol, she was a rejected child star on a stage that promised her the world and then quietly showed her the exit. Our investigation takes us back to 2006, a year most fans believe was the start of her journey, but in reality, it was her first major professional heartbreak. At just 10 years old, Jessica stood on the very first season of America's Got Talent, a pint-sized powerhouse with dreams that dwarfed her physical stature. She was a wild card act, a designation that usually implies a second chance, but for Jessica, it became a lesson in the fickle nature of public voting. She was eliminated before the finals, a moment that went largely unnoticed by the masses but left a permanent mark on her psyche. Sources close to her early development suggest that this initial rejection fueled an obsessive drive for perfection that would later define her American Idol run. However, it also planted the seeds of doubt regarding whether a powerhouse vocalist of her background could truly break through the mainstream American ceiling. For years, this chapter of her life remained a footnote, buried under the later success of her teenage years. But looking back from 2026, it serves as the essential prologue to her ultimate redemption. It was the first time she was told no, and as we would later find out, it would certainly not be the last time a major platform tried to count her out. She achieved what no other contestant in history ever had, yet within 24 months, her name was scrubbed from the major label rosters. The year 2012 saw Jessica Sanchez reach a level of visibility that most artists spend a lifetime chasing. On American Idol, she became a symbol of vocal perfection, famously receiving the only judges' save of its kind after a shocking bottom-3 result. It was a moment of television history that felt like a coronation. But behind the scenes, the transition from reality TV star to global recording artist was fraught with tension. Despite a successful debut and a high-profile stint on Glee, her relationship with Interscope Records began to deteriorate. Reports surfaced of creative differences and a lack of promotional support, leading to a quiet departure from the label that many insiders viewed as a soft blacklisting. While she continued to release independent music and perform internationally, the momentum that should have carried her to the Grammys seemed to stall. Critics whispered that she was too technical or lacking a brand, but the reality was far more systemic. She was caught in a shifting industry that was moving away from traditional vocalists in favor of viral social media personalities. For the next several years, Jessica became a ghost in the American market, leading many to speculate that she had been forced into an early, unwanted retirement by the very people who promised to make her a legend. While the internet speculated about her career's demise, Jessica was secretly building a life that the cameras weren't allowed to see. Between 2018 and 2023, the public's insight into Jessica's life became increasingly limited. She moved away from the Lowe's Angels hustle, seeking a sense of normalcy that had been denied to her since childhood. It was during this period of relative silence that she made one of her most significant life choices, secretly marrying her longtime partner, Rickie Gallardo, in 2021. The ceremony was a far cry from the glitz of a Hollywood wedding, kept strictly off-grid to protect their privacy. This hiatus wasn't just about romance, however. It was a period of intense soul-searching and vocal recovery. Sources indicate that Jessica struggled with the pressure of her past prodigy status and used this time to deconstruct her image. She began to focus on her Filipino heritage, performing in smaller venues across Southeast Asia where her talent was still revered without the baggage of American chart expectations. This vanishing act was interpreted by some as a failure to stay relevant, but in hindsight, it was a tactical withdrawal. She was waiting for the right moment to strike back, shedding the idol label and preparing for a move that would eventually shock the entire entertainment industry. The quiet life she built during these years provided the emotional foundation she would need for the chaos that was about to follow in 2025. No one returns to the scene of their first public failure 20 years later unless they are planning to burn the house down. In a move that industry analysts initially called a desperation play, Jessica Sanchez reappeared on the America's Got Talent stage in 2025. To the casual viewer, it was a heartwarming comeback. To the industry, it was a calculated risk that could have permanently tarnished her reputation if she lost. Walking onto that stage 2 decades after her first rejection, she wasn't the timid 10-year-old or the polished teenager. She was a seasoned woman with something to prove. The moment Sofia Vergara pressed the golden buzzer, the narrative shifted instantly. It wasn't just a viral clip. It was a formal declaration that Jessica was back to claim the title that had eluded her since 2006. However, as the competition progressed, a new controversy began to emerge. Jessica was noticeably pregnant, and as the live shows approached, her physical condition became a central point of concern. Some argued it was an unfair sympathy angle, while others were mesmerized by the sheer stamina required to deliver world-class vocals while nearing full term. The tension behind the scenes reached a breaking point during the semifinals, with medical professionals reportedly on standby in the wings. She wasn't just fighting for a trophy. She was navigating a high-risk medical situation on live television, a feat that had never been attempted by a frontrunner in the history of the franchise. She didn't just win the $1 million. She did it while facing a looming medical emergency that nearly stopped the finale cold. The climax of this journey occurred in late 2025, during a finale night that will be studied by television producers for years to come. Jessica stood on that stage, 9 months pregnant, and delivered a performance that many described as transcendent. When her name was announced as the winner, it wasn't just a victory for her. It was a victory for every artist who had been told their time had passed. Just days after the confetti settled, she gave birth to her daughter, Ileana Me, effectively starting her new reign as the Queen of AGT and a new mother simultaneously. Now, in 2026, the landscape of her career has changed entirely. She is no longer looking for validation from major American labels. She is an independent mogul with a massive global following and a renewed focus on her roots. Her upcoming 2026 album is rumored to be a bilingual masterpiece, blending soulful R&B with traditional Filipino influences, a project she was never allowed to make during her Interscope days. The story of Jessica Sanchez serves as a sobering reminder that the industry can try to silence a voice, but it cannot stop a revolution. As she balances the demands of motherhood with a world tour, one question remains. In an industry designed to discard talent, how did the girl they tried to forget become the one woman the world can't stop talking about? The 2026 reality for Jessica Sanchez is a far cry from the has-been labels that were once unfairly attached to her name. Her journey from a rejected child to a history-making champion and Mother is a testament to the power of a strategic silence followed by a deafening return. It forces us to reconsider how we measure success in the modern era. Is it by chart positions, or by the ability to survive and thrive on one's own terms? Jessica's story isn't just about music. It's about the refusal to be a victim of an industry that often prioritizes youth over substance. As she moves into this next chapter, her legacy is no longer defined by what she lost in 2012, but by what she reclaimed in 2025. It's a narrative that challenges every aspiring artist to look beyond the immediate no and focus on the long game. Because as Jessica proved, sometimes you have to walk away from the spotlight to find the light that truly belongs to you. The world is watching her now, not out of curiosity for a former star, but out of respect for a woman who turned her greatest setbacks into her most profound triumph. What will the next 20 years hold for a talent that refuses to be contained? Only time will tell, but if the past is any indication, Jessica Sanchez is just getting started.